What's up, people? This is the Believe in Saints podcast presented by FanDuel. I am Mario Jerez, Spanish play-by-play voice of the Saints, native New Orleanian. She is my co-host, Erin Summers, seasoned reporter and analyst covering the Saints and the NFL as a whole. Erin, next time we speak on this podcast, we'll be breaking down a game. And we have a very interesting joint practice to break down from yesterday as well. We'll talk about what we're looking forward to in this Jaguars versus Saints preseason game, getting closer and closer to the NFL season. So good vibes over here. How are you today?
I am doing great. I am really excited because we saw some really good things that we've been having a little bit of questions about in the joint practice yesterday against the Jags. And I'm also looking forward to actually seeing the Saints take the field because we've seen a bunch of other teams already get a game under their belt. So I'm ready for the Saints to join the club.
And before anything, had to say it was very nice to just see them go up against somebody else. And we'll get into the specifics, who, impressed us, who needs to improve. But I've said it all off season, and I'll continue to say it. Even if you're not a fan of preseason, you know what these games actually entail. If anything, we're getting closer, and we're getting a lot closer. Just 3 of these things, then we get to the regular season opener against Detroit, which is less than a month away. We talked about some interesting lines in those games, but either way, I'm getting more and more excited as we go here.
Yeah, I am too. It's a good ramp up to the season. After a couple weeks of practice, it was nice personally to see them go up against somebody else. And I know the players said the same thing yesterday after practice, that it's really good to go, and you're not quite hitting somebody else at this point, but to see somebody else on the other side of the field, it helps you gauge where you're at and give you a better perspective going into the first preseason game, and then kind of next week when you're going to have 2 more joint practices of things that you need to work on and pieces to tweak before you do get to week 1.
And you could tell they took it serious. Like the music was blaring in the press conference settings. It felt like it was post-game, like an actual game.
Mm-hmm.
And we said it on the show last week. I think that joint practice was going to be more indicative of what both of these teams are than the actual preseason game that we're attending tomorrow night. So I know we both have thoughts on that joint practice, but before that, kind of want to get the Jordyn Tyson discussion out the way. We're waiting on an update from Kellen Moore at the time of this recording. But to be honest with you, I don't think we're going to learn anything new here, Erin. We know it's a hamstring injury. Kellen Moore called it more of a leg injury. And again, they're waiting on more information, but at least initially it doesn't appear serious. Again, we'll see once we get a more accurate diagnosis, but still not ideal. Anything to do with Jordyn Tyson and his hamstring is not going to create a good narrative. And again, he's not going to dispel these narratives until he actually plays in the games. Very unlikely that he plays in this first one against Jacksonville, and we'll just have to kind of wait and see what happens here.
Your head coach Kellen Moore said that the starters would not play against Jacksonville. And when you look at how they've been rotating on the field, Jordyn Tyson is one of those starters. He is a rookie, so sometimes they may get a little more opportunity to run during preseason games with this quote-unquote injury to him. I doubt we see him at all game 1. Maybe we'll see him preseason game 2 or 3 for a few reps. The Tyson injury is going to become news or be newsworthy because of his injury history. However, they have been so cautious with him throughout all of the offseason, OTAs, minicamp, that regardless of the severity of the injury, if he comes up at all saying something is hurting, they're not going to let him finish practice, right? Like they're going to make sure that he gets completely checked out. And he was down on the field for a little bit. It wasn't like they were attending to him on the field. He was just down on the field for a few, and then he got up and ran off. So the fact that he was able to run off is good. We didn't see him the remainder of practice. Again, I think they're just being cautious because of his injury history. The severity is unknown at this point, but I'm not going to get too concerned right now.
Yeah, nor am I. And I think the Saints are in a pretty decent spot health-wise. Obviously, you're reeling from those injuries to Brian Breesy and Radens, who are both going to be out for the season, it looks like. But other than that, and other than Jordyn Tyson leaving practice early yesterday, Terrell Burgess was the only other guy that left the session, didn't return. It's an unspecified thing there. But all in all, Saints in a pretty solid spot, in my opinion, health-wise, going into this preseason opener. And speaking of health, I thought Tyler Shough looked really healthy yesterday, Erin. I thought it
Mhm.
was one of his better days of the offseason, to be honest with you. And especially in the red zone, I kind of liked how decisive he was when the field was shrinking. And that was the key theme for me with Tyler Shough in that joint practice session, decisiveness. I thought he was getting rid of the ball really quickly. I thought he was diagnosing blitzes really well whenever the Jags brought it. And it was a very welcome sight given how the Saints offense had been performing. So
Mhm.
that's what's being written about. And I think all of it is accurate. Saints offense had a really good day. And if you're a Saints fan, again, it's only practice. You don't want to take away too much, but has to be a welcome sight given what we've seen really going back the last couple of months in the offseason.
When you look at Tyler Shuck's performance yesterday, it's clear that he has this ability to elevate his game when he's in the moment. You're going up a new opponent, not your own defense for the first time in gosh, I mean since last season, right? I don't even know how many months that is off the top of my head, but it's a long time. And he brought it. And that is a good sign. He definitely had command of the offense. When he started the first team session, he threw 4 straight completions, a touchdown to Bryce Lance was the final completion in that set. Then he had a really nice ball to Chris Olave down the sideline. What I liked about his decision making is, and he alluded to this after practice as well, is he worked with what the defense gave him. We saw a lot of deep balls and big passes to several players. I mean, what it was Vele, Tyson, Trey Palmer, Barry and Brown got one at the end of practice, and it was a interesting sight because we haven't seen that from Tyler Shough yet. We've seen a lot of deep balls from Spencer Rattler and Zach Wilson. Saw another one from Zach Wilson to his favorite receiver, Bub Means. But to be able to see Tyler Shough take those opportunities and to connect in those moments was huge, I think. It shows that he does have that ability in his game. He was 9 of 10 to start the team session and then ended up 25 of 34. 4 or 5 touchdowns. There was that one really nice, I thought was a catch to Chris Olave as he was falling out of the end zone, but they called it an incompletion. We were right there. It looked good. And the offensive players obviously thought so as well. So that would have given Shough 5 touchdowns on the day. But just to see his ability to be so successful in the passing game, and then the run game got established as well. I know you were watching the offense most of the day, so seeing that get going was a good sign too.
Yeah, the offensive line looked pretty strong, at least in the run game, like you're saying. And Jacksonville's defense, at least going off of what they did last season, no slouch. That was the number one rush defense in the
Mm,
NFL, only 85.6 yards per game. And they were gashing them to an extent, at least on some of these plays. And Travis Achan looks really good in the screen game, Erin. I think
yeah.
that's going to be a thing for the Saints offense this year for the first time in a long time. And part of that's on the offensive line. Like screen passes, executing them are a lot harder than people think. Like it really is a timing thing, a chemistry thing. But Achan seems to have really good chemistry with some of these interior linemen. And I think that is going to be an element of the offense this season. So encouraging for the offensive line after they've kind of been getting their butt kicked against the Saints defense recently.
Yeah, speaking to the offensive line and going up against the Jags defensive line, which you said is one of the better ones in the league, I will say that the pass pro still needs a little bit of work. Want to give Tyler Shough a little bit more time, but he did a really good job scrambling under pressure. So again, the decision making's there, his ability to think quickly, good. Um, the run blocking has been better. I think even seeing Achan get in on some of that and holding his own in the blocking game is a good sign as well. So we'll see how the offensive line continues to evolve throughout the rest of these joint practices. They probably did give up about 3 sacks to Shough. Um, and then someone, I think Ross Jackson said that there was 8 total for
Mhm.
the day. So not great, not terrible. I mean, you're running it up against a good line and trying some different things. So still early on in training camp here.
Yeah, and one thing I hate about it, Aaron, is these constant debates I'm always having of whether or not that play would have been a sack. Like that was
Ugh,
happening
I
a lot
know. It's
yesterday.
true.
But at the end of the day, you at least have a mobile, elusive quarterback. So it's definitely advantage Saints there, right?
Mhm,
But I kind of already know Tyler Shough can do that based off of last season and some of it being necessary with the Saints having a patchwork offensive line. But it was encouraging yesterday for the reasons that I said a minute ago, him diagnosing blitzes, because I think he's going to get blitzed a lot more this year and
mhm,
had a really good stretch in 9 games last season, but it's still his first full season as a starter. And I think teams are going to blitz him more. The Saints offensive line is going to hold up better against 3-4 man looks, right, on the pass rush. And Shough is going to have to prove that mentally he could diagnose where the blitz is coming from, and physically he could make that play quickly, find a soft spot in the defense, and show teams that blitzing him is a bad idea. So he did that yesterday in a joint practice. I'm curious to
mhm.
see if it carries over into the regular season.
Yeah, I think we just need to highlight Chris Olave. 'Cause he looked so good. He has been solid. I I was talking to him after practice and joking with him because he's always lined up when he's on the sideline, he's always past the line of scrimmage, turned around watching the offense from, like, the defensive perspective. And I asked him why he does that because he's the only one, he's by himself down there, and he said, I'm just trying to cool down. Like, I'm trying to get away from everybody, all the bodies, all the body heat, and, like, get down there, but then also so I can see, and I want a different perspective of watching the offense from the defensive side. So, whatever he's doing is working, and I wanna also point out that he is the first person after every single big play to go congratulate a wide receiver. He's the every single time, he was the first person down the field, so happy for all of the other guys. So I think, again, that speaks to the leadership that we're seeing from him and him taking another step in that area of his game as well.
I am somebody, Aaron, who loves having secret handshakes. Some people think it's obnoxious, but I have one with my sister. I have some with some of my good friends. I used to host a show in Baton Rouge, and the co-host before was Jeremy Hill, the former running back who
Mhm,
I made pretty good friends with. And we had a secret handshake, and that always got me pumped up for the show. And I say all that to say that I've noticed that Olave has that with multiple rookies on the Saints team. He had one with Barry and Brown. He had one with Lance, I believe, also.
mhm,
And that goes with what you're saying, right? He makes an effort to not just be the best player on the field, but to be a leader to an extent. And some guys lead in different ways. Some guys are vocal, need to chew guys out. Olave, I think, leads by encouraging guys and
yeah.
kind of delegating the wide receiver responsibilities because he's going to be the top guy, but he knows he needs these guys. And that chemistry already being built, I'm curious to see if that'll carry over into the regular season also.
Yeah, and the chemistry between Tyler Shough and Chris Olave is elite. You can see that it's on a different level than everybody else on the field. They obviously played a lot of time last year because Olave was one of the players that was healthy. I'm gonna remind everybody that he
Thank
was
you.
healthy last year, and a lot of other people weren't. So they had a chance to develop some of that chemistry earlier than some of the new players, obviously, on the team this year, and they've been working very closely together during the offseason. And he was a part of that group that went to San Diego as well. It's just where he's from, so not too tough for him to do that. But going into the joint practice, I think all of us were looking at it like, all right, this is going to tell us a few things. One, is the offense there yet? Are they struggling, or are they just playing against a really good defense and a defensive front in the Saints? So a lot of people were watching the offense to see how they were able to move down the field, and then watching the defense to see if they were really as good as they've looked. And I think that those questions were answered. The Saints offense is starting to click. They're starting to build momentum. It was great to see them have success against a different defense. And then when you look at the Saints defense, they are good. They really are just as good as they have looked through the first 2 weeks of training camp. They get to the quarterback, the pressure is there. They make plays in the secondary when there's opportunities. And I think that the defense is still ahead of the offense, but I think they're a little bit closer than we thought based off of them competing against each other through the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, they've been fun to watch, and rightfully so. A lot of people give Brandon Staley credit, and as a Saints fan, it's a good feeling because Dennis Allen, while not a good head coach, was an elite defensive coordinator for a long time. So you
Mm,
maybe just assume there'd be a little bit of drop off there, but there wasn't. And now there's a lot of continuity in this group, and that really stood out yesterday because, like you said, this is a unit that's been playing with a lot of confidence throughout the offseason. And yesterday, they put that into fruition against another team. And on the second play of ones versus ones with the Saints defense versus the Jaguars offense, Julian
mhm,
Blackmon had an interception against Trevor Lawrence. And that's key, not just to pick Aaron, but what happened before the interception. He and Quincy Riley had some sort of pre snap adjustment before that play. And whatever they did worked. He gets the interception. And the rest of the defensive backs had a pretty good day also collectively. Jonas Sanker, Quincy Riley, Kool-Aid McKinstry all had at least one pass breakup. Chase
mhm.
Young was living in the backfield. He was making the left tackle flinch at least once, at least one time that I noticed, maybe more than once. But I say all that to say, Aaron, that I'm very okay with a lot of these guys not playing in the preseason. Like
Mm.
Chase Young doesn't need to play in the preseason. Julian Blackmon doesn't need to play in the preseason. If you want to
Yeah.
give Caden Ellis and some of these new guys some reps, I get it. If you want to give a guy like Stutzman some reps who's fighting for a starting position, I get it. But a lot of these guys do not need to play. I've seen enough, and I saw some good stuff on that field yesterday.
How weird was it to see number 7 on the defensive side of the ball?
Hmm.
Because Jonas Sanker has changed his number and he is now 7. I was laughing because you can almost picture that being Taysom Hill, right? You've always joked, what position would you play if you played defense? Because you played every offensive position. And you can almost in your mind be like, I could see Taysom being the main cog on the defensive end as well. Jonas Sanker did uh, great for wearing that number 7. I think Taysom Hill will be proud of his performance yesterday, and things are looking good for him taking on a new position there and what he was able to do. He was all over the place. You mentioned Chase Young, and Chase said individually he had 6 sacks. And again, it's hard to tell because you can't actually finish the play. There were definitely 4 that I saw, could have been a couple more, so he easily could have had 6 himself. I don't know how much the entire defense had, but Granderson was getting there as well. The interior defensive line looks really good. Nathan Shepard stood out a lot. He was, impacting the plays and getting into the backfield quite often as well, so that is a really good sign for the defense.
And we've talked a lot about Carl Granderson, but I think we need to continue to. I mean, he continues to stand out, especially as
Mhm.
an edge rusher. Like maybe against the run, he still has some room to improve, but this is somebody who's been a good pass rusher, but continues to get even better. So I'm really excited to see what he can do. And they even said when they were talking the post game, like it's no secret the defensive line just has a lot of depth, at least compared to the Saints offensive line. So
Mhm.
that's a good thing for the Saints defense going into the season.
Yeah, I think that the only red flag was the red zone for the
Yeah.
defense. They didn't allow a touchdown all day during any of the team drills until you got to the red zone. And then they allowed 6 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. And it was majority of those were all inside the 10, but that was an area where the Saints did seem to have a breakdown at times last year, both sides of the ball, and I know there's been a lot of focus on that area. It's great if you can keep them from moving the ball and never getting into the red zone, so you don't have to worry about that, and maybe that's just gonna be their MO, but you wanna make sure that they're still able to lock down some of those short yardage, red zone, goal line situations.
Yeah, agreed. And that was actually an area of strength for the Saints last season. We talk about how bad the red zone offense was, but defensively, they were tied for the 10th best red zone defense, giving up touchdowns on just under 55% of opponents' trips inside the 20-yard line. So that was a little concerning, but I think you just got to
How
kind of
many
tip the cap
times
there, the
did you
Jaguars.
see how many times did you see Demario Davis making plays down there in the red zone?
A
He
lot.
was a
Yeah.
huge part of them locking people down there, so not having him on the field, that's an area where it could be impactful.
Good observation. We'll see if they miss Mario. Saints opening the preseason against the Jaguars inside the Caesars Superdome this weekend. I'm very excited, very blessed to be going into my 8th season as the Spanish play-by-play voice of the Saints. 8 years, Erin. Geez, time really flies. But I'm still excited to, although the starters are not playing, I'm excited to see some of these backup guys. I got a list of names here, but I'll give you the floor here first. What are you most watching? After we saw a lot in the joint practice, what are you most watching in this actual preseason game?
Well, first of all, I have to start off with the fact that regardless of the fact that it's been 8 years, you don't look a day older, even though it was your birthday yesterday. So happy belated.
Thank you. Much appreciated, Erin. It's been a
Of
joy to work with
course.
you.
Yeah, and I'm sure you enjoyed being out there watching a joint practice on your birthday a little bit better than what we've seen so far. So that kind of spiced things up a little bit for you. And I know you had a good dinner at Katie's, where we love. So I want the highlights when we get towards the end of the show. But as far as what I'm looking forward to on Saturday, I think it's important to watch who gets the special team reps because those are usually your fringe players. They have to be able to contribute in the return game and or as a gunner or something like that. Make sure that they're able to contribute on the special teams is a huge component of some of these players making the 53. And then which receivers start and how they are rotated in. Because we know who it's Chris Olave, Jordyn Tyson, Devon Vele probably are top 3. So from there, who gets the run to start the game? Spencer Rattler is going to be the starting quarterback, who I would think that whoever starts, the coaching staff is looking at them as a little bit further ahead of the other receivers. So that's interesting to watch is which receivers play first. And then for me, offensive line depth is going to be a big thing. But I really can't wait to see Jeremiah Wright out there because he's just a big guy. And he's so fun to watch. The way he just switches his demeanor when he gets on the field, the energy that I saw him playing with. I mean, he was all over the place, excited, cheering after plays. I don't know. Cheering sounds weird to say for a football player, but like hyping everybody up and screaming and stuff like that. So, gonna be interesting to watch him.
For what it's worth, the Saints are a 1.5-point favorite in this game, according to our friends at FanDuel. -126 on the money line. Jazz, not the Utah Jazz, the Jacksonville Jaguars, a +1.5-point underdog in this game, +108 money line for all the sickos out there if you want to take the Jaguars on the money line. But interesting, the Saints are favored here. Maybe there's a little bit more confidence in their backups, but I'm with you on the wide receivers, Erin, because I've seen enough, similar to what I was saying about the defense. I've seen enough from Vele, from Olave, even from Jordyn Tyson, limited reps. But there seems to be a lot of opportunity here for the other guys. And even with the recent developments, I mean, we talked about Jalen Polk being a factor. He's not here anymore. Rechsteiner is probably a candidate for the practice squad if he makes it that far, but he's dealing with the 6-game suspension. So even more opportunity for some of these guys. And some of them have already stood out on the practice field a lot, namely Barry Brown and Bryce Lance more recently. But can they carry it over into the preseason games? And can they do it with the second team offense? Not just a quarterback, but a second team offensive line. That quarterback might not have as much of time, to throw you the football. And I'm excited to see if any of these guys can separate themselves. Brown's had a really good camp. I'm excited with what Lance has done recently. I felt like there was a little bit of an acclimation period there, but I see more and more people talking about him being a potential sleeper as a rookie. So like you said, who starts will be important, but throughout the course of the game also, who's going to make a key play in a 2-minute drive if the game is tied towards the end. And before I let you have the floor again, I want to say that Bub Means has really stood out to me as well. Maybe not with making the big plays in the receiving game, but special teams reps. He's had some opportunities with the ones, which is interesting. And he had a touchdown catch yesterday from, I believe it was either Wilson or Rattler. I don't remember, but he stood out as well. And he's actually made plays in games before, unlike some of these guys. And like Kevin Austin, who's a factor as well and has a little bit of experience. So the wide receivers, probably the key thing I'm watching on Saturday.
Yeah. With Bub Means, he was looking really good in training camp last year. And then he had that unfortunate injury in the Chargers game. in preseason, and that ended his whole year. So I'm hoping that he is going to make the team, because I hate people losing jobs because of injury, and that he can make some plays on Saturday for sure. The other position that, of course, I have to mention is kicking game. So Charlie Smith had a really good day against Jacksonville. I mean, they were just kind of going through drills. He went 6 of 6, and then Tanner Brown went 5 of 6. So they actually swapped. It was the opposite the day before. Brown missed from 51. So there's not separation that's making no one's running away with the position right now. So maybe you give the nod to the incumbent in Charlie Smith. I don't know, but we will probably see each of them for a half on Saturday.
Yeah, that is definitely a legitimate battle going into the season. Curious to see if those guys can separate themselves, or one of them can, I should say. But another thing I'm watching, and I know this is boring, not like the best topic for a show, but the punting game needs to improve for the Saints this season. And with
Yeah.
Wright in tow, Aaron, I think it's been noticeably better. And
Oh, yeah.
honestly, I wish there was a little bit more coverage about what he's been doing in training camp. Some of these punts I see going out of bounds, like right before the pylon. And
Mhm.
the Saints seem to have better gunners this year, especially with some of these rookies. I know Lorenzo Styles is going to be counted on heavily there, but they got to get back some of what Sean Payton used to call the hidden yardage. Like, they've been giving up a lot of hidden yardage in the punt game. So that's something I'm watching in the preseason, regardless of who's in the lineup. And that's something that needs to get better for the Saints this year.
Yeah, special teams is huge. Not only harping on the kickers making field goals and making extra points, but you have an opportunity to flip the field and really do a lot in that aspect of the game, in the punting game and kickoff. So something else to watch for sure. I mean, I'm just looking forward to being back in the dome
Yes.
and seeing all the fans. And I know Spencer Rattler is going to bring it, because he always does. He's a confident guy, and he'll
We'll
be
be
fun to
careful. They're going to
watch.
get mad at you in the comments, Aaron. Any praise for Spencer Rattler? I'm with you, though.
I mean, we know that Tyler Shough is the starter. He is the starting quarterback. There is no competition, that's been said. But it is always good to see your backup perform well.
For sure.
And I
And
don't think that there's a competition between Spencer and Zach Wilson at this point.
yeah, that's what's crazy with me with some of the criticism. You know, we're watching in the lens of a backup quarterback. Like, we're giving praise and saying he can maybe be a starter. That's literally what we've been saying. Nobody's saying he's an all-pro or is going to win every start or anything like that. But he has been playing well. And like I said, that bodes well for some of these receivers, for some of these other guys that are trying to get a
Mhm.
spot on the team. So I'm definitely kind of confident with what I've seen from Spencer Rattler, but he's had a great training camp, not a good training camp, a great
Mhm.
training camp. But I'm curious to see if he can carry it over into the games as well. So offensively, I know we're looking at the wide receivers a lot. Defensively, there are a couple of individual guys that have impressed me on the practice field. Can they do it in the games? And the
Mhm.
two guys that come to mind first are both defensive backs, both rookies, Lorenzo Styles and Jordyn Price. Both of those guys have gotten a little bit more run as training camp is gone. And I wouldn't be surprised if they made a couple of plays in these games, in these preseason games here.
Yeah, Jaden Bryce has been somebody that, if Jonas Sanker as a starter isn't going to play, has been that second string slot nickel. So he will potentially start there. I don't know if they'll give Sanker any run, just because it's a new position for him. Maybe we'll see that later on in the preseason. But when you do go back, there are a couple players that I think in the secondary that will be interesting to watch. Um, Unfortunately, with Julian Blackmon going down, Terrell Burgess going down, um, there are some questions as far as potential depth that's going to need to be filled in there. So it is definitely a position to watch. I know the cornerback who stood out recently. Well, I know Tyree Wilson also left early yesterday. Let's see, going down. Uh, Yadam, but Martin Emerson. We'll see how much run he gets, because he's been somebody that I think has done well of late as well. Also,
Yeah. Yeah, coming off the Achilles injury, might want to be a little careful with him, but he's
Yeah.
had a really good training camp also. And like you said, looking forward to the atmosphere in the dome. This first preseason game, there's a lot of hype for it, right? Whenever
Mhm.
preseason actually gets here, there's less hype. You see what it actually is, but I'm expecting a decent crowd in the Superdome. I know you'll be out there in that number, and it's going to be good. No matter what happens on the field, Erin, no matter who we see, it's going to be good to watch some actual football. So very much looking forward to that.
Yes. It's gonna be a good day in New Orleans when football is taking place in the Superdome and the season is about to kick off. It's always a fun time to be in the city when Saints football is going.
Well said. And it was a good night for me last night, not just because it was my birthday, but because I had some dinner at Katie's. Shout out to Chef Scotty Craig and the whole crew over there, doing a great job as always, serving up some of the best food in the city. And I was telling you before the show, Erin, like they have so many good selections there, most of which I've tried. But I had never had the cheeseburger before. So I
Mm.
got me a Katie's Classic, some cheddar cheese, and I'm genuine in this praise, Erin. You're going to get to know me. You know I'm a cheeseburger snob. And a lot of times when you order a cheeseburger medium well, they don't make it right. They either make
Right.
it too close to well done or they undercook it. But this was like exactly what I wanted. Like just a tinge of pinch, just a tinge of a pink, just a scoonch of pink, like an
Mhm.
actual medium well burger. So that was delicious. Drinks were on point. Had a really good night at Katie's and really good place to celebrate a birthday for anybody. So definitely encourage y'all to get out there and do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you have any dessert?
No, because we had cake waiting at home, but
There you
the
go.
dessert there is great. I definitely recommend anything on the menu. I think you're a little bit more of a sweet person than me, to be honest with you.
Every once in a while, yeah, I will.
But if you're a food person, get on out to Katie's 3701 Iberville Street. Shout out to Chef Scotty Craig and the entire crew. Erin, like I said, next time we talk, we'll be breaking down an actual NFL football game. Had a good show here today. Joint practice was a lot of fun. Do you have any final thoughts before we sign off and head to the Caesar Superdome?
No, come to the game. Support the team. They're putting together some good stuff on the field, so come see it for yourselves. And the next 2 games preseason are on the road. They're joint practices next week, but again, on the road. So this is your opportunity to see the guys in person before that open practice at
Boom.
Tulane, as well as another one to see them on a different field and back in the dome this weekend.
Football game to break down pretty much every week from here to January at least. Very excited, very pumped to continue doing the show with Erin. Very grateful for all of you for listening, for interacting. Again, not just the praise, but the opposing viewpoints. Hit us up in the
Mhm.
comments. We welcome it every single time. So thank you all for listening. Don't forget to hit subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and write a review. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. Shout out to the Believe production crew as well for always doing a good job. For Erin, I am Mario saying thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to y'all soon to recap Saints versus Jaguars inside the Caesars Superdome. Thanks again. Have a good one. Who dat?